My wife wants to kick out my autistic daughter to bring her mom in, and I told her no. I feel betrayed by my own wife. This is gonna be a little long, and I, 34, apologize for that. I'll really appreciate some advice. This happened recently, a few days ago actually. What I said to my wife didn't end badly, like you may expect, but she definitely was shocked when I told her what I felt. There's reasons why I said what I said, so I stand by my comments. My daughter is turning 20 this month. Such a great, sweet and incredible girl she is. Creative, full of love, never in any type of trouble, and she's very respectful. She's autistic and has age regression, dissociative identity disorder, due to verbal and physical abuse from when she was a little girl. It breaks my heart to say it, but I didn't have custody of my daughter till she was 10. Her mother and I split up. I only got visitation, because at the time I couldn't financially support my daughter. Her mother met and married another man she met in college, and this man beat both her and my daughter every single day. This guy screamed and beat my little girl as if she was a man, and I did everything in my power to remove her from all that. One of my biggest failures in life is not getting her out of that horrible life earlier. I was telling everyone I could to help me get her out, and it felt like the lawyers and police didn't care one bit. It took some time to remove her from that household. I love my daughter with all my heart. I'll jump in front of a bullet for her. But when I saw the bruises she had and how easily scared she was becoming, I got her out, and ever since she was 10 I've given her peace and all the love she deserves. In my home, there's no fights, no raising of the voice, and she doesn't have to worry about ever getting hurt again. I married my wife when my daughter was 11. Her son was 15 at the time, and the daughter/stepmother relationship between them is great. She's a wonderful stepmother to my child. These past 8 years of marriage have been a blessing. I'll love to give some context of my daughter's age regression, so you can see where I'm coming from when I bring up the situation with my wife. The way her age regression works is really interesting, especially because I wasn't aware something like this existed. I didn't know trauma/abuse could cause regression, and I have learned and educated myself on this over the years. My daughter changes from being a 20-year-old girl to becoming a 7/8-year-old, mentally. One moment she's herself, the next moment she very childlike and innocent. Perfect example to share. There's times where she started crying in the middle of the night because she was afraid of the dark. She sometimes does this, and it's her regression kicking in. I just hugs her tightly and kiss her on the cheek, telling her there's nothing to be afraid of. Her 20-year-old self definitely never does this, but her 8-year-old self does this from time to time. As her father, I make her feel safe and loved during these moments. Sometimes when regression kicks in, and depending on the situation, my daughter panics and cries if she doesn't see me. Similar to when like a child can't find her parents, my daughter tries to find me, and when she can't she cries. I always rush to her during these moments. Her stepmom definitely does help so much during these times, but because my daughter is closer to me, she tends to be mostly call out for me. My wife is very respectful about this. She understands my daughter sees me as the safe person in her life. Her aggression is not always bad. There's times where all of us are hanging out or playing games together, and she shifts into an 8-year-old mindset. Moments like this, she's very playful and goofy. Her speech changes and all she wants to do is have fun, and she gets really hyper. Her curiosity also kicks in super hard, so I have to be near her constantly so she doesn't get herself hurt. Normally all she wants to do is just play. She even has a few toys she plays with when she regresses. Like I said, she pretty much changes into a 8-year-old girl. You never really know when exactly regression kicks in, because it happens constantly every day. Here's some important info. Another reason why she's with me is not only because of her aggression, it's because she can't give consent. I as a parent must protect her from any harm, because her memory gets fuzzy. During therapy they did a test on her, where they ask her a few things, and see if she remembers them when she regresses. She never does, and she also doesn't remember it either when she's back to her normal mindset. My fear as a father is some asshole taking advantage of my daughter, or someone beating her again. I have protected my child from any harm all these years. I'm not going to let some jerk abuse her again. I also legally have to take extra care of her. I simply can't let her go off on her own completely. This is all signed and documented. She's improving with therapy so much, and approval must be given, and officially signed, that she's capable of being on her own. Any little screw up I do, or she gets hurt, I'm afraid she'll be taken away from me. I really want my daughter to experience her own life, and do beautiful things, but right now it's not possible. Compared to her teen years, she's much better. I'm hopeful in the near future, she'll be approved to be on her own. My wife recently decided to have a talk with her about adult responsibilities. I had no knowledge of this conversation until my daughter came to me crying and panicking because she was scared about living on her own. What hurt me the most is she thought I knew about all this, but I assured her I didn't know anything. I was confused at first. Then she told me her stepmother said she needs to start looking for a job because she'll be expected to get her own place after her birthday. I was appalled because we never discussed throwing her out of the house. Also, my daughter was never going to leave anytime soon. She's improving so much with therapy, but she's not in the best position to be on her own. My daughter knows this and always tells me she appreciates the support I give her. When I confronted my wife, she said my daughter wasn't a child anymore and needed our push to become an adult. I told her I was really shocked that she would exclude me from such a serious decision/conversation. My wife knows so well about my daughter's regression. She knows perfectly well my daughter isn't capable of being on her own at the moment, and she knows even more that my daughter can't give consent at all. I asked my wife how does she expect my daughter to make it on her own when she still panics when she doesn't see me. She knows about my daughter waking up in the middle of the night afraid and crying. My child sees me as a safe person for her to be comfortable, and I told my wife I'm afraid of someone taking advantage of her with how she currently is. I also clearly reminded her I legally can't let my daughter off on her own. The risk would be huge, and I could lose her. She then informs me she had planned for us to pay half her rent, wherever she ended up living. I asked her why she wanted my child gone so bad. As the argument intensified, I believe she slipped by saying she wanted her mom to stay with us because she divorced her husband. I couldn't believe it. I told my wife if her very capable mom was more important than my daughter, her stepchild, she should be the one looking to rent. However, she took that as me saying her move out, but that's not how I meant it. I was implying for her mom to look for rent and to leave my daughter alone. She didn't believe that's what I actually meant. She then gave me the silent treatment for 3 days. Her son, who's 23, is still living with us. Great kid who I absolutely love, but all he does is smoke weed with friends, eat the food we make, and makes no money or helps out. She doesn't see an issue with him, but she's a big issue with my daughter. It's just hypocrisy, and it upsets me very much. At least my daughter is in college. Her son dropped out and is just here at our place. What shocks me is that my wife and daughter love each other, and suddenly she just wants to kick my child out. My daughter, however, was still upset as she processed her stepmother wanting her out. She realized moving away she'll not only lose me, but the 2 puppies I bought her a few months ago. I got her 2 puppies to keep her happy and relaxed, so she doesn't stress out too much. The puppies have cheered her up so much. She told me, I don't want to turn 20, I don't want to celebrate my birthday. I told her that I loved her, and that she's not going anywhere. I picked the argument back up with my wife at that point. I said, my daughter isn't moving out until anytime soon. You have to accept that. She is more important than your mom, to me. In fact, kick out your son, he doesn't do anything either way. She just looked stunned, and maybe in the heat of the moment I didn't choose my words wisely. I couldn't bear to see my daughter so upset any longer. I don't want her having any unnecessary struggles, especially with how she is. The last thing I want for her is to feel any anxiety or fear. As far as my wife goes, she's apologized, but she didn't appreciate what I said about kicking her son out. My wife and are still going to have talks about this, but I'm standing my ground that my daughter isn't going anywhere, at least not without. She goes, I go. What I said to my wife may have been a bit harsh, but I don't regret it one bit. I said what I said, and I meant it. I'll love some advice on what to do next. My wife and I will continue talking about this soon, and like I said, I have no intentions of letting my daughter get kicked out. How would you handle this situation? Because I know my wife is definitely going to ask me that, and I want to answer her appropriately. You all already know my stance on this, but my wife and I have to meet in the middle with an understanding/agreement with something. From the looks of it, we are obviously not seeing eye to eye as of now. My wife's mother is an amazing woman who I love, but I love my daughter more. TL. Doctor, my wife wants to kick out my autistic daughter, who has did due to childhood abuse, to bring her mother into our house. I legally can't let my daughter go, but my wife doesn't seem to understand that.